My name is Yves. I'm the product manager for Varnish software. Do bear with me throughout the presentation. My voice might disappear every now and again. I'm here to talk to you about our product lineup. Particularly, I hope you guys have had an opportunity to have a look at the Varnish administration console. We were sort of demoing outside during the lunchtime, but if you're interested, just come grab us, fill out the online form. Don't hesitate to get in touch. A little bit about myself. This is my first VAC, so I'm really excited to meet you all and speak to such a esteemed audience. I am an Australian. I live in Norway. I have left a sunny beach lifestyle in the search for the midnight sun and cold snow. I've spoken to some of our customers and they often ask why. Well, it's pretty clear, heavily cladded women, hard to say no to. After plenty of these, I saw the light. I realized I do like Norway. And so this, my inspiration. And very soon, I popped out my own heavily cladded babies. But what has this got to do with Varnish software, really? It's quite interesting to think that Varnish Cash was architected by a Dane, is owned by the Swedes, and of course is managed by Norwegians. So there you have it. But that's beside the point. Today's agenda, we're here to talk about the administration console, what it is, what it offers, what it can do, and of course the future. Incidentally, we're going to be the first, well, won't be the first time, since Alden, our good friends from VAC, has already started to talk about VStatD. This will be the first time we sort of, from our point of view, to bring up the VStatD and what it can do for you. So what is the VAC? Dating as far back as Varnish Cash, I believe it was called a cluster controller. Essentially, it's a mechanism where you can group caches together and manipulate them as one. We have this interesting notion called Martin's law, and this is a design principle that the VAC follows. I'll discuss it a bit further later. It does have a configuration management. It does have a nice little VSO editor. It can issue bans, much like how VAC has interface for purges. And it does have nifty little real-time graphs. And recently we started looking into high-performance cache and validation APIs based on one of our clients' requests. Incidentally, most people don't think about purging being high performance. Our client still is in the finance district, finance sector, and one of the requirements was a minimum of 2,000 purges per second. So recently we have addressed this and delivered this as part of the VAC. So there's a lot more interesting if you come outside and have a look at the demo instead of static images like this. But we have cooked up some interesting ways to look at the Varnish stats. For example, the bad things graph. A lot of the counters go amiss. A lot of the counters people don't pay attention to. Here in Varnish software, we've identified some of them that we find interesting, and we bring it out into the light. So all of these are in real time. High charts over WebSockets. So this is what a group of Varnish cache could look like for you. We have a production. In this case, we also have a staging. You manipulate the setups. Oh, sorry. You configure them via the VSO editor and parameters. But before we get to that, we should discuss the Martin's law. Martin, the quiet giant in the corner of the office, sitting over there, he is the genius behind this. And it's interesting because we would like some feedback on this. The VAC is very much centralized and built to deliver this law, which is broken up into two rules. A group of caches should always be consistent. You will always share the same VCL. You will always have the same parameters. So it follows, when you do add a cache into the same rotation, the same set needs to be applied, same port. So we really would like some feedback on this to really hear what you guys think. So this is the VCO editor. You can edit your VCL, concoct whatever it is you like. When you save, it can be deployed directly into your caches. And of course, error messages are displayed to you from Varnish cache directly. We've also found that a lot of our customers really enjoy reading blogs, particularly Christian's blog, despite some of the, and they love getting all of that blog info straight into the VCL. Sometimes it works, and when the syntax changes, we will hear about them. So we have also sort of put up these little snippets to help you along the way. So these are kind of our best practices right there for you, sort of quite easily visible. This is our purging interface. Really, yeah, you put in a band interface, my bad. You put in a band expression, and this will be executed across groups of caches. Yeah, honestly, static images are not as exciting, so do pop, nip around the corner and say hello, and you can play around afterwards. We do have an API as part of the VAC. A lot of these bands, people want to sort of automate. So we have that in the form of a RESTful web interface. And we have now a high-performance purging API also. So why do we do the high-performance purging API? Particularly because the financial information needs to be updated right there and then. And it's more important to have the correct data than old data. This was a really interesting project for us, and this is kind of what the API looks like. You can execute the purge directly against your cache, or you can execute the purge against the VAC. So this was a really interesting problem. So we came up with first of all came up with a solution. As you probably have heard, we're quite fond of 0MQ. We identified some of these challenges, Varnish being fast. So the key thing here is to get the messages out there fast, as soon as possible. The VAC is written in Java, and we find out some of the web service APIs, frankly, has very bad performance. Some of the existing containers have extremely heavy weight. So to build a web service wrapper around the servlet lifecycle, it may not really do the job. And what do we do with authentication? Should anybody purge? Of course not. Initially, I came up with this proof of concept with purging 0MQ based on the specs we've written in-house. Part of the spec is to sort of validate that our design is correct. So here you are seeing a time-augmented Petronet model stipulating the critical path within the VAC. The circles are places, the bars are transitions. Where there's parallel places, there are shared resources. So in short, each of these transitions and places have time constraints in order to deliver the performance we want. So before we even start building it, I wanted to verify that the design is correct. So this was quite interesting, mapping out the VAC. It could be looked upon as a typical web app. It does have a database. We use the MongoDB. So for example, an approach to authentication is to authenticate against our database. Then you need to pull out the groups containing caches, basically meta information from the database also. You then need to construct the 0MQ message, you marshal it, you send it off. Not just that, you need to know if the message has been received and if the purge is indeed successful. So there's a very short time that we wait for the message to come back. Those that are familiar with 0MQ, we use a publish socket and we use a pull socket to get the response. So essentially, if we assume that the driving cycle is 1, it makes the math a little bit easier, and we have identified the following time constraints. The simple act of purging has now become quite complex. And incidentally, I did end up building it to the best of my ability on a single core, 1 GB RAM, on a, I guess, non-production network. And the result was pretty poor, 700 requests per second. Not happy traders. So how did we solve this problem inside the VAC? We kept it simple. We know exactly what we do, and that's HTTP. We built a subset of the HTTP protocol and we ditched the web container. We run the VAC still in embedded Jetty, but we run a sort of a separate subset of web container just for purging. So this was quite cool. We don't use any external APIs, so this is entirely within our support agreements, and no third party needs to be involved. Of course, we use the new I/O. For authentication, we'll leave it up to Varnish, much like how the paywall's made. And what we have discovered, indeed, that the simple act of sticking to what we know and keeping it simple has outperformed 0MQ. And that is interesting. So what numbers were we getting? On the same setup, 1 gigabyte memory, single core, VM, we got 4,000 requests per second. So we're quite confident that our customers are thrilled, and this is an extremely positive addition to the VAC. It is an industry-specific solution, so I guess under normal circumstances, unless you need 2,000 purges every second, you probably could live with bans or whatever not you do today. The future is really bright, I believe. The Varnish Administration Console is not here to replace your monitoring tool. You need to monitor your production system. You need to manage your configuration. What we are finding increasingly is the Administration Console is being used by developers. They're able to log on, modify the VCL in their will. They can save copies of these VCL, share amongst their developer friends. And they can have a simple Varnish setup accessible to the development team. One customer swears by this, so I'm really, really keen to find out how the developers actually use this. I myself am also from a development background, so I find that having the real-time graphs, for example, extremely useful. I can make changes both in my app and in VCL and see the result immediately. We're aiming to expose all the features through an API to automate a lot of the setup, to help ease the process. And we really want to extend the real-time graphs. And speaking of real-time graphs, speaking of statistics, this presentation actually got moved behind Alden, so this was going to be the VStat presentation to warm him up, but it's kind of gone the other way. You have seen an excellent demo. Vega is our beloved customer, and I think, yeah, we were really, really happy with that. But in case you missed it, the VStat does stand for something, Varnish Enhanced Statistic Daemon. In one short sentence, it digs through your Varnish log for you. And it's entirely up to you, to however way you want it to configure. And as the slide shown by Alden earlier, it is as simple as putting a log into your VCL today. Now, how is this useful? Well, first of all, debugging is useful. Seeing a subsection of your traffic is useful. Let's just take BBC, for example. They talked about breaking up their cookies, right? They talked about several different apps. Well, why not look at traffic going into just those apps? Today, without VStatD, you can't really do that. It would be really difficult, in my opinion. But with VStatD, this is a very real possibility. And it's as easy as putting a regular expression, somehow matching some sort of URL that you're interested in. So we're extremely, extremely excited about this, and I think there is a lot of possibility with VStatD to come. After all, this presentation is about user interface. We will be building a user interface for VStatD as part of the VAC. So a typical usage, for example, you do want to know your subsection if you're network traffic, all the data, time to first byte, let's say. And let's just say that VarnishSoftware.com, within that we have several, we'll categorize our products, and we were interested in who's looking at this, how much of it has been served, how fast are they being seen. With VStatD, you can get a top listing, as you've already seen before. The use case for this is you'll be able to sort of compare and get a really clear picture. We want to also extend the real-time statistics to, let's just say, weekly, hourly, to really give a good comparison. What we're trying to aim here is to deliver a product that you could just glance at, you get the most important information that you're interested in. Of course, and I think there's plenty of other use cases. You don't have to use virtual host and URL, for example. You can very well use client IP even. You can use the keys you come up with. Put in the name of your application and see what comes up. So possibilities are actually endless. I kept it short. I think we're running a bit out of time. So please do nip around the corner. Come talk to us. We're happy to demo this and speak about VStatD and then the Varnish Administration Console further if you need. And don't hesitate to email me or anybody in present. Thanks very much. Hope to hear from you. I'm happy to take any questions.
I've noticed when we've seen VStatD today, a lot of it's based around a key that you choose, that you use the logging command from the standard vmod to write in. Varnish log itself contains a lot of other things that you don't have access to within VCL that you couldn't write a logging statement for things, and some things are very interesting. Like there's some statistics that come out at the end of a request and some timing statistics and things like that, which would also be very interesting to be able to look at. Is there any way to access those things?
I believe at the moment, unfortunately, no. It is key based. But I think what you're bringing up here is really, really interesting, and we should definitely take it under consideration.
Hi, with the VCL editor, are there plans for sort of integrating that with some kind of version control system or some ability to sort of go between configs and track the changes that are made via the admin tool?
Yes. There is, the question was version control. Yes, it is on the roadmap. As of today, no, unfortunately, but it is on the roadmap. We are hoping very soon we can integrate with Git. So yeah, I hope, yeah.
Any further?
Thanks guys, appreciate it.